When I finally managed to recover from binge eating, at the time it actually felt like a bit of a hollow victory because I was still emotionally eating, I was still overeating, I would go through these cycles of using food to just check out of life because I felt like I couldn't cope. And I really judged myself for that because my life didn't seem that bad. What do I have to complain about? Other people are going through way worse stuff, but I can't even cope with the day-to-day functioning of life without numbing out with food. So it was another couple of years, even after my binging stopped, where I'm healing my relationship with food and, more importantly, my relationship with my emotions and my emotional experience of life. And I want to share with you the lessons and the things that I realized that enabled me to get to a place where emotional eating is not a problem in my life. Now, how we eat can and does affect how we feel. So therefore, I'm not sure that it is possible or even desirable to separate food completely from how we feel. But the pain point for most people is when they feel like they have to use food to cope with life, and they don't want to be doing that. Now, with these realizations, it wasn't like one moment I suddenly realized this and then everything changed. These were things that they were more like dawning realizations. I kind of started to see how they were true, and then they started to feel more true, and then they started to actually change my behavior. And the first thing I realized, and it was the same thing I had to realize with the binging, was I was focusing on the behavior, not what was underneath and driving the behavior. So I often say people try to change the way they eat by trying to change the way they eat. That's their method. They just say, I'm going to behave differently, aka I'm going to eat differently. I'm not going to eat this, I'm going to eat in this way, and I'm just going to make myself do it. And then they're not able to make themselves do it, and then they feel even worse. So the change with the emotional eating and healing that part was about taking the focus off of food and onto my emotions. So what that might look like in practice is I have an emotional eating episode, and my automatic response is, okay, well, tomorrow I need to do better tomorrow. I need to eat like this, and I need to make sure that I don't do that again. That's behavior focus. And the irony is that would usually trigger me into wanting to eat more the next day. So instead, I started saying things to myself like, okay, tomorrow I am just going to keep checking in with myself, and I'm just going to keep noticing and naming what I'm feeling. And that sounds like nothing, right? Oh, how is that supposed to help? I'll tell you. It helps because emotions are messengers. They're trying to get your attention to alert you to the fact there might be a problem or there might be a need. And so when we notice our emotions and we can name that they are there, our emotions have done their job. What happens is then by naming and acknowledging your feeling, the feeling is like, okay, she's heard me. I'm gonna leave that with her now. Now, of course, this doesn't work with all emotions and really big ones, but those kind of small day-to-day niggles, because this is the thing as well. Emotional eating sometimes sounds like, oh, I feel sad, so I'm going to eat, or I feel angry, so I'm going to eat. But a lot of the time, if you're anything like me, it doesn't even feel like that. It's more of this just general agitation, unease that can't even necessarily be defined. So when I started naming what I was feeling, sometimes it would just be a case of saying, I am feeling really agitated. There's a sense of unease and discomfort, or there's an emptiness, or there's a disappointment. These lower level emotions can sometimes be the sneaky ones that catch us out because they're going on and we're not really sure that they're there. All we know is that, oh, now we're thinking about the food. The second thing that I realized, and this one is a biggie, because if you are doing this, you will absolutely be making your emotions, this is not scientific, but at least 10 times worse. And it's this. It's the tendency to moralize what you feel and to make it mean something about you. So let's say that you feel angry with somebody, but you're in your rational mind, you're telling yourself, I shouldn't be angry with them. Maybe they did something and they didn't mean to do something, but you still feel angry. And now you feel like you're a bad person, that you can't shake off this feeling of anger. So what you do when you judge yourself is you have now layered shame on top of your anger. So not only are you feeling angry, you're feeling some shame, you're feeling some guilt, you're feeling bad about feeling bad. And that has a compound effect of kind of layering your emotions and makes it harder to get through them and process them. Whatever you feel, even the horrible, icky emotions like jealousy and envy, they are just emotions. And most of them will come from old stories, old conditioned thinking. So if you're experiencing a feeling that you feel goes against the kind of person you want to be. Let's say you want to be a kind and compassionate person, and you feel like because you feel this resentment or this feeling about something or towards someone, that threatens this idea of the person who you want to be. Well, if you want to be a kind and compassionate person, it begins at home, right? It's having some kindness and compassion towards yourself, that you are having a feeling that you don't want to be feeling, and that it doesn't mean you're a bad person just because you're feeling it. This is, I like, if I could shake you all, I'm not going to shake you, I don't know why I said that. I don't know how to make this point. I don't know how to emphasize this point enough, that if you do nothing else to change your emotional experience, if you stop judging yourself and you start having compassion for how you feel, no matter what it is, it will change everything. Guaranteed. It transforms your relationship with yourself. This sort of leads me on to another part of this realization, which was, I used to think that if I felt bad or I was having a quote unquote negative emotion, that meant something's wrong and I have to fix this feeling. I thought, I'm not supposed to feel these negative emotions. Life is all about being happy and joyful, right? So if I'm not feeling that, I would feel like I was getting it wrong. And the first person who introduced me to this idea was Brooke Castillo, and she says life is 50-50. That half the time you're going to experience negative emotions and half the time you're going to experience positive emotions. Now, I'm not sure that the divide is as clear as that, but it made sense, this idea of thinking, actually, part of the human experience is that we are supposed to experience these negative emotions. In some circles, they talk about it as contrast, this idea that if we didn't have the opposite, we wouldn't even know what these lovely, good feelings over here that we like feel like. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't try to ease a feeling or understand a feeling or get out of a feeling that we don't like, but it just means stop believing that something has gone wrong or you're getting it wrong just because you don't feel good. A big part of getting to a place where you have a better relationship with your emotions is this idea of being willing to feel them. Now, I've got a bit of a rebel, I've got an avoidance streak in me, so I might think, I just don't want to feel this. I might know all this stuff, but I don't want to feel it. The willingness is not there to feel it. Now, this could be for a few reasons that we'll talk about in a moment, but something that really helped me with the willingness piece of it was the realization, I only realized this through actually practicing, but the realization that when I turned around and felt the feeling, it was like a sting and then it passed. Now, it couldn't pass if I was judging it or shaming myself for it, but I realized that when I started to feel my feelings more, that they actually passed sooner. I thought I was using food to get rid of feelings, and I wasn't. I was just kicking that stone down the street. It was a suppression of feelings. So when you first start to get in touch with your emotions and feel them more, it can feel very intense. It's almost like a backlog there. So understanding that this is normal, this is what will happen, and it's okay, you're okay, you are safe, which is the last piece. And it's possibly one of the most important in terms of making any of this possible, and that is about feeling safe enough to feel. I felt I had some dissonance around this one because in my rational mind I'm saying to myself, I know my feelings can't hurt me. I know I might just feel bad for a bit and then maybe I feel okay for a bit and then I feel bad and then I feel okay, and there's a cycle to this. I know all of this. So why does it feel like in the moment that this feeling is so threatening and it's going to overwhelm me and I'm going to just drown in it? I almost felt like if I let a feeling come in, that it was never going to leave. And I think part of the reason this was happening is because whatever I was feeling, I was so identified with. So if I was in a low place where I feel like I can't cope and I'm feeling despair and I'm feeling shame, I'm believing that this feeling and this space is the reality of who I am. Anytime I've experienced anything positive over there, that was just delusion. That was just a reprieve from the reality of who I am is down here, and it's icky and it's horrible. It would also work if it swung the other way. If I was going through a good patch and I thought, I'm killing life, I can do anything, I've got this. When I was feeling like that, I'd be like, this is who I am. This is the reality of who I am. Yes, I went through a difficult patch, but actually I'm someone who can smash life. And the truth is, like, they're both a part of me, but neither of them are just me. I have a part of myself even now that when she's activated can go to a place where she feels like she can't cope with the world. And I also have a cocky part of me, it feels kind of teenage age, that feels like she knows everything and she can take on the world. And the truth is that none of it is me. So part of the way that I created safety around my emotions was by disidentifying from them. Oh, like a part of me feels like this and this part is active now. That was way less threatening than to think that any feeling was somehow a reflection of who I am. Now, safety, feeling safe enough to feel, is a big topic. And I really encourage people to spend a bit of time thinking about the things that help you feel safe. So one of them might be other people, having support. Who are your safe people? A big one for me is creating safety in my own mind. How I talk to myself now is a million miles away from how I used to talk to myself. I have a voice in there who is so much more compassionate and allied. It's not this Pollyanna, oh, you're amazing and wonderful and just love yourself. My compassionate voice recognizes that I'm a human being and I have messy parts that I don't like, and I feel compassion for that because that's part of being human. And I have old conditioning in here that doesn't serve me, and that's part of being human. So it's having compassion for our flaws or shortcomings without trying to just convince ourselves that we're perfect when we don't have any. It's a realistic compassion. Safety can also be found in changing the body state as well. So if you are feeling very stressed and overwhelmed, your sympathetic nervous system is being activated and you're trying to get your parasympathetic nervous system to bring you down with this idea of safety. One of the reasons why we turn to food, because when we eat, we trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. So it creates safety, it changes our physical state. So actually changing your physical state, anything that gets your heart rate up or encourages deep breathing, that could just be breath work. You could even look up somatic exercises, which are all about trying to create this sort of biochemical safety in the body. It's particularly helpful if you're someone you feel like your baseline is quite anxious. In a nutshell, if you want to change this emotional eating behavior, it's going to involve changing your relationship with your emotions. And that will not only transform your behavior emotionally eating wise, but it will transform your experience of your life and your experience of yourself. I still experience plenty of what we would think of as quote unquote negative emotions. I think we sometimes think that this self-development journey is about getting to a place where we just feel so much better all the time. But actually it's like I just feel so much better about feeling bad. And that's the difference. If you're someone, if you really identify with this idea of using food to cope, you might want to check out this video called Using Food to Cope. And anyway, thank you for watching and I will see you on the next video.